what's going on? I am here for my absolute favorite type of videos, and that would be my book hauls. Soldier boy. That's what I do when I'm pumped, I guess. This month I have a rather large collection of books, and I think it's pretty safe to say that I have a problem. I need an intervention. I just love buying books way too much. I think there's 29 books in all, and they're sort of a mix of buying new books. I also went to the thrift store and bought a couple books. I also got a few books as gifts. All of a sudden, now that I have a review blog, people are like, hey, do you want my books that I don't want? And I'm like, yes, I do. We better just get started. Let's get into it. The very first thing I want to mention is my parents, my lovely, lovely parents, came to visit me and they bought me 2 brand new bookshelves, and I am so excited about it. They are absolutely beautiful. You couldn't have given me a better gift right now. My other bookshelf was like packed. My books need to be organized and nice, and for a while there they didn't have room to be organized and nice, and so I'm very happy to now have 3 bookshelves. So the very first book that I want to show you is actually a recommendation I got on my last book haul video by, I'm so sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Sherilyn Crosby. She recommended this book to me and it gave me an idea. Every month on my TBR list, I'm going to include one recommendation from you guys, and then I'm going to review it afterwards. So go ahead and start recommending things to me. I'm going to just pick one at complete random and read it every month, and I think that will be a fun way to keep interacting with you guys and keep me reading books that you guys think that I'll love. The very first one that was recommended by Sherilyn Crosby is Written in Red by Anne Bishop. I've never heard of this series before. I think it's a series of 2. There might be a third, but as far as I know, it's a duology. I could be completely wrong, and I'm so sorry if I am. I also love the fact that I never would have picked this up on my own. Like as I've said in other book hauls, like I tend to not like books that just have like a person on the cover. They don't really scream like, read me to me. So I never would have picked this up on my own, but that excites me even more because now I have the chance to read a book that I otherwise wouldn't have. So keep the recommendations coming. I'm super excited to start this monthly tradition. These next couple books I'm going to mention, I'm going to just mention quickly because I've mentioned them in other videos. The next book I got this month was from my wonderful boyfriend. It's the Pop-Up Guide to the Game of Thrones, and I'll give you a little taste here. This is The Red Keep. This book is absolutely incredible, and every page is like it. It's got layer upon layer of pop-ups and information. The back opens up and you can lay it out as a map on the floor. I go through this book in depth with you guys in my 500 subscriber celebration and giveaway video. Click here if you want to go watch it. I think if my house was on fire, the first thing I would grab is my cats, and the second thing I would grab is this book because I'm in love. The next books I'm going to show you are, I mentioned in my Loyal to a Fault tag. You can find that video here. These are my Ted Dekker book haul. I had a couple Ted Dekker books to add to my shelf. I have Eyes Wide Open, Outlaw. Outlaw is the beginning. It's like a prequel. And then Eyes Wide Open and Water Walker and Hacker are the next ones. And they're not the same size. Why would you do that? The Sanctuary, which I'm very excited about. I've actually never read this book. It is a sequel to The Priest's Graveyard. I actually didn't know that this sequel exists. Like, what kind of fan of Ted Dekker am I? I'm sorry, Ted, you just released so many books that I can't keep up. The last book is one that I've done a review on, so if you want to watch it, here's the link. AD 30. This one is about a woman who lived in the time of Jesus, but she doesn't live in Jerusalem or Nazareth. She is actually a desert dweller. She lives in the desert tribes, the Badu tribes, and it's really interesting because she really isn't a direct part of Jesus's story, but you get a look at his interactions through her eyes when they sort of come into contact here and there, and you get a really different perspective on certain characters in the Bible who really didn't have a personality otherwise. Let's talk about the ones I bought at the expensive bookstore. I'm not kidding you. My friend can attest to this. She works at Chapters. Every every single time I go to the bookstore, she and this other girl are the ones who end up helping me out. And they are literally like, you have a problem, girlfriend. And I'm like, you're right, I do. Why do I keep coming back here? Last time I went, she was trying to help me decide which books I had to take off my pile because I had too many. And we couldn't decide, so I just bought all of them. The first book I bought at the bookstore I'm very excited about is called The Gargoyle by Andrew Davidson. I'm excited about this book because my friend, hey Kenzie, she recommended it to me like 5,000 years ago. I swear to God, 5,000 years ago she recommends this book to me, and I was like, yeah, sweet, I'll read it. And I honestly have been putting in an effort to find this book. I've looked on it on Audible, I've looked for it at bookstores, like everywhere, and I could not find it. And then all of a sudden I go to the bookstore and lo and behold, there it is. Like a gift from the Lord, sitting on the shelf. There it was. After all that time that I could not find this book, 2 days later I go to the thrift store, and what do you think was there? This dang book for $5. I was very upset. The only consolation I can use to make myself feel better about this is that that book at the bookstore wasn't in as good of shape, and the person had written their name in the cover. I can at least be glad I got a real crisp, fresh, good-looking book. And then a couple days later, my friend, she texted me and was like, hey, if I buy a book for you, will you read it and do a review on it? And I was like, yeah, for sure, what book? And oh, by the way, I finally bought The Gargoyle that you recommended to me so long ago. And she was like, oh, that's hilarious because that's the book I was about to recommend. And I was like, you're looking at the one in the thrift store, aren't you? And she's like, yeah, how'd you know? Why, life? Why? I was looking for this book for 500 years, and now all of a sudden I had 3 opportunities to read it. So it must just be destiny. She's going to also read it, and then we're going to do a review together on it at the end of June once I'm finished. So I'm very excited for this book now that I finally got my hands on it. I try to every month buy a book that I've never heard of. I just kind of go to the discount section and literally just cover buy. The one I bought this time is called Middle C by William H. Glass. Yeah, I know nothing about it. It just sounded really interesting. It sounds like it's about a guy who had, like, his dad or something was in the Nazis, and then it talks about him disappearing under mysterious circumstances and relocating, and kind of comes up with, he creates a fantasy self. So, I mean, it sounds really interesting. I'm honestly interested in anything that has to do with the Nazi era. So I have a feeling I'll like this book. I hope it's well written. Here's to hoping. The next book is also one in a collection that I'm sort of trying to buy every month, and that is the classic collection that I'm trying to bump up on. This one's The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. The only thing I've read by Nathaniel Hawthorne is The Birthmark. It's a short story. This is going with my classic collection that I've been building, that the bookstore that I go to is selling. Like, they all have the same covers and they're absolutely beautiful. So right now I also have Gone with the Wind, which is an absolute brick, and Pride and Prejudice, which I read this month, and whoa, teacup, which I read this month and absolutely adored. And so I'm excited to read The Scarlet Letter. I'm trying to brush up on my classics as much as I can, and I'm really enjoying them. I found a beautiful version of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Is that not absolutely beautiful? I saw it and I was in love. It was love at first sight. I've never owned a hardcover book without the dust cover before. It's absolutely beautiful. I've never seen this cover to The Hobbit before. I think it's a UK version. Like, it had the UK pricing on it, so that might be why I've never seen it. My friend actually informed me a couple days ago that it also has a Lord of the Rings set that matches it, but the Lord of the Rings set, when you put them together, it has the Tree of Gondor on the side. And I'm like, girlfriend, I need that in my life right now. Right meow. The bookstore didn't have them, and I was very sad. Except it's a good thing because I already blew way past my budget. So it'll be on my to-buy list for next month. And so, yes. Speaking of beautiful books, I went and ordered the original versions of Snow White and Cinderella as written by the Brothers Grimm and Charles Perrault. and they're illustrated by Camille Rose Garcia. And these books are honestly probably some of the most beautiful books on my shelf. The artwork is very gothic, which I think is just, the artwork is beautiful. And the font, like just the way they organize the pages is absolutely just like mind-blowingly like, I need this in my life right now. They're very creepy, but honestly, the creepiness matches the stories better, believe it or not. You'll find that they're a whole lot darker than the Disney versions. I'm just so in love. I'm so in love. I'm so in love. The next book I bought, I've seen recommended like all over YouTube. It's All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. I'm fully expecting to need some tissues while I'm reading this one, and I'm so excited to be taken on that emotional journey. I was inspired by Little Book Owl to start buying the Death Note series. Oops. I bought the first volume of the Black edition of Death Note, and if you've never read or watched a show of Death Note, it's about this guy that comes across a notebook, and it turns out that if he writes a name in the notebook, the person whose name he wrote will die. And so it's sort of like a vigilante versus like the real law kind of story, but it's very good. Like the characters are unreal. I actually like haven't read the books, I've only seen the show, and it's the only anime that I have ever watched, because typically I'm not a huge fan of anime. I find the illustrations a little bit creepy, to be honest. I just don't like the style that much, but I was absolutely in love with Death Note. The frames are almost like photo for photo from the show, which is very cool. So I'm wondering if they're much different, but I'm about to find out. And this will be my first anime manga series that I'll be reading, so I'll have to get used to like reading them completely backwards, which is really going to be an experience for me. The next book I bought was A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin, and so this is my second book to the Song of Ice and Fire series. I love the Game of Thrones so much. I'm almost done the collection because I went out and bought A Feast for Crows, because this is the one I'm reading right now on my Kindle. Now I have numbers 1, 2, and 4, which is sort of annoying, and I'm going to buy 5 next, and then I'm going to swing back and buy my favorite book of the series last, because I just got so tired. On my Kindle, I bought all 5 books in one package, and so there's literally no way, unless you like scroll through and kind of see where you are, there's no way of knowing, because this edition of the book doesn't even have page numbers, which is extremely frustrating. It just has location, which is like, I have no idea what that means. I just got frustrated with not knowing where I was. It's sort of like being thrown into the ocean and not knowing how close you are to the surface. I was drowning. I was very happy to find out that I was about halfway through. That was a very nice surprise. I was almost expecting to find out that I was like a quarter of the way through, because again, these books sort of feel like drowning when you're reading one that combines all 5 of them and there's no page numbers. What a nightmare. The last 2 books that I bought at the expensive bookstore were the 2 first books of the Lunar Chronicles, which I'm very excited about. I'm really excited to read this. I have Cinder and Scarlet, and these books are sort of, from what I've gathered, are a mix between fairy tales and sci-fi. They're like cyborg princesses, which sounds really, really cool. And so I'm very excited to read these, and the covers are absolutely gorgeous. It really feels like everybody on the planet has read these except for me, and so I'm glad that I can finally join the club. Is there some sort of like secret handshake that I can learn? Because I'm ready. I am ready. When I went to the thrift store, I did find a couple books that I wanted to buy, and the first one is The Book Thief, and it really isn't in very good shape. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty tarnished. The spine is cracked. It looks like there's like water damage. Like the pages are all cracked. The cover, there's like something on it. Yeah, it's really not in good shape at all. So whoever owned this before, shame on you. Like, what did you do to this thing? But you know what, to be honest, there's sort of a comforting feel about reading a book that's like that you don't have to take care of at all. It's like well loved, and I mean, you get really good feelings holding a book that is in really good condition, but you get completely different good feelings holding a book that's just like obviously well loved. I have a feeling I'm gonna love this book too. I've heard really awesome things about it. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. It's been on my list for quite a few months now, and so when I found it at the thrift store, I was like, sweet. I meant to buy that at the real store, but then I completely forgot because I was so distracted by millions of other books. So, you never know, maybe I'll buy a good version, or maybe I'll be completely content with this well-loved, miserable-looking version. But I mean, I wonder who owned this before me. I wonder what they were like. I wonder if it was a girl or a boy. What their story is. We'll be connected in this small way now. One more book that I bought at the thrift store that I'm actually very pumped about. It's in very good condition. It's The Host by Stephanie Meyer. I have not read anything by Stephanie Meyer. I blacklist the Twilight series, and I won't say never say never. I might read them eventually. I have such a bad first impression of it that I just don't know if I'll ever get around to them, especially considering how long they are. However, I heard The Host was an amazing adult book, and it's super long. However, I really want to read it because I've heard very good things from numerous people about it, and it has nothing to do with Twilight, so I'm completely fine with this. Ooh, Stephanie Meyer, you're a pretty girl. So I'm really pumped about this find. It was $5. Can't beat that. Let's head into my list of books that I got given to me this month, which I'm very excited about because free books are the best books. The one I'm most excited for in terms of how it was given for me is called Head Game by Tim Downs, and the reason I'm excited about this book is because I came home and it was like perfect timing because I came home from the bookstore with my gigantic book haul and I found a package on my bed and my auntie had mailed me a book, and what a nice surprise. I was already on a book high and I'd come home to this. Like, yes, Lord, more please. It sounds like a psychological thriller. It sounds like kind of a stalker who tries to get people to kill themselves by sort of playing mind games with them. So yeah, it sounds really interesting. So the next bunch of books are all from my roommate that moved out, bless her heart. She is an amazing person, an amazing human being. The first one that I decided to take, wow, this is so bright. Yeah. It's called Flipped by Wendelin Van Draken. Yeah, I have never heard of this book before in my life. I have no idea what it's about. The book, there's like alternating, like it's like upside down writing and right side up writing, and it just like looks like a real, yeah. The next one I took from her is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and I know there's more books of this, and right now I don't feel like I'd buy them, but you never know. Maybe I'll read this book and absolutely fall in love. Never say never. By Justin Bieber. Let's just pretend I didn't say that. It is in my TBR jar to be read at some later date. The next series she gave me, I'm actually super pumped about. It is the 2 first books of the Uglies series, and I have heard such good things about this series, and they sound so interesting. It sounds like it's about like a society where you're just not accepted unless you are literally beautiful. On your 16th birthday, you undergo an operation that, like, if you're not beautiful when you're born, it makes you beautiful. So it's like required plastic surgery. I don't know. They sound really good, and all I know is I've heard really good things about these books, and so I'm legitimately excited to read them. And so when I saw them in the pile, in her giveaway pile, I was like, yeah, give those to me right now. Please give them to me. And the last series I'm sort of getting more excited about as I think about it. They're like 300 pounds. I don't have the first book of the series. I have the last 3 of the series, which is really kind of bizarre, but they were given to me, so they're in my TBR jar. When I end up drawing it out, I will go and buy the first book. Unfortunately, the first book that I have is paperback and the next 2 are hardcover, but we'll just have to suffer through that. It is the Aragon series. So I have Eldest in paperback, and I have Brissinger, and Inheritance in hardcover, and I really love these covers. This is one series that, like, I should have read a million years ago, but I haven't. So I am very excited about reading this series. It's a little bit daunting because every single book is super long. I think right now I'm a little bit daunted from reading a big series since I just I'm still in the middle of Game of Thrones, and so I put it in my TBR jar to force myself to pick them up and read them eventually. So I am excited about them. I'm just a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous, not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure that is all that I have. That was a total of 29 books, if I counted right. It is a huge book haul, and many, many thanks to the people in my life who gave me books and who gave me bookshelves to put those books on. I've had a wonderful reading month overall. I'm very excited to do my May wrap up because I've read a lot of books that I really loved, and I'm really excited about the books that I've brought in, about the new bookshelves I have. So I just had a wonderful bookish month. I'm really excited to dive into these books. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, what your favorites are. I hope everybody is having a fabulous day. We will see you next time. Bye.